in a very unexpected move, the Giants have released James Bradberry. And Bradberry, we knew this was coming, and now the Giants saved $10 million in cap. And that just goes to show where they're at, where they were dealing from a position of weakness. And Joe Shea made that abundantly clear, maybe too clear, but I think he's smart enough to know that it wouldn't have mattered. I was hoping the Giants could get something in trade compensation, but we kind of knew that his release was going to happen. It was a matter of when. He was not going to remain a New York Giant. That's a shame. Because James Bradbury, even when Dave Gettleman does something right, he gets it wrong. Where, there weren't many great sort of bargain deals. James, it costs a lot to get James Bradbury. And he was really a very good New York Giant. He was really, honestly, in my opinion, one of the top cornerbacks during the 2020 season. And what was a bit of a resurgence for the Giants defense. And Bradbury was a main reason for that. 2021, I felt like it definitely, it was a dip, but still pretty solid. And someone that, whoever gets him, they're going to be lucky to have James Bradbury. He is a legitimate number one cornerback. Is a really good shutdown one-on-one type of guy who really can lock down a team's top wide receiver. We've seen it, and it's just too bad. But this is a Giant team that is going to be rebuilding. That's just the way that it is. Like, for anyone to be expecting this team to make the playoffs this year, I'm sorry, I don't see that. Now, you want to see progression. I think especially, with the offense, I think there's, with Daboll in with an offensive line that should be better. Look, I don't think it's going to be like a great one, but it should be improved. And with hopefully Daniel Jones, what's a make or break year from him, showing his best. I think that if there's nowhere to go, you can only go up with this offense. But I think on the defensive side, Wink Martindale is in now, which I think it's going to be a different look than what we saw with Patrick Graham, for better or worse. I think that Graham it would have been ideal to keep Graham. I've said this, but I think with Martindale, I think that's a very, very, very good replacement. But the Giants went from having a strength in the secondary to it's a legitimate weakness. Like you go into that 2021 season, you think about it. You have Bradbury, you bring in Adoree Jackson, safeties. There's Logan Ryan, Xavier McKinney, and just a ton of depth. Now, Logan Ryan's gone, which was a bit of an interesting move, but one that I didn't hate it, didn't love it. And then with this Bradbury one, it's like I really like the player, but they had no choice. So now, cornerback wise, it's Adoree Jackson. Your number two is probably going to be Aaron Robinson, who when they drafted him, and I thought Aaron Robinson was one of the lone bright spots last year. I think the thought there was going to be he'd be a slot corner. Now you probably put him on the outside and now have Darnay Holmes in the slot, and Darnay Holmes is more of a slot cornerback. So I think Adoree and Aaron Robinson on the outside, Darnay Holmes on the inside, and then the rest of your cornerbacks are Rodarius Williams, who I believe he did get hurt last year. I think he was a late round draft pick. Not much was expected of him, and he was okay. But still, I think you'd want better for a fourth corner. And then the Giants draft pick this year, third round pick, Cordell Flott from LSU, and then as well Jaron Williams, who played a bit at the end of an undrafted guy who kind of had some moments. And then at safety, it's Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, and Dane Belton, who was also a draft pick this year. So I kind of see Julian Love being a jack of all trades kind of guy. I feel like he could be a pretty important piece to the secondary. Not that I'm a huge Julian Love fan, but at this point, this will be his fourth year. And so I think Love, he's kind of versatile. So I think he'll be someone that's on the field quite often, definitely. And Adoree Jackson, who was pretty good, but also the Giant, he's paid a lot, Adoree Jackson. Like, that's that's sort of the thing with Bradbury. I thought Adoree Jackson last year was pretty good. There will be more on his plate now that Bradbury's gone, but I think Adoree Jackson can handle it. You hope that Aaron Robinson can step up, but my point is, the Giants secondary, it's definitely a weakness right now, and I thought it was an absolute strength and the best part of their defense just a year ago. Now we look at it, and you hope that the pass rush is better, and it should be, with Kayvon Thibodeau in, second year with Azeez Ojulari. I think the chances for it, and Wink Martindale is someone that does like to blitz. So I think the pressure on the quarterback should improve, and it's going to need to with a secondary that is weak. So really, the whole outlook on the defense is, for me, is completely flipped, where now I'm really trying to avoid having the secondary really face any type of adversity. And now the Giants, I felt like, there were coverage sacks to be had. That won't really be as much of a thing now. So, and the Giants cannot afford injuries. Look, if you want to have Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, Adoree Jackson, Aaron Robinson, Darnay Holmes, let's just say as that's your unit, you can maybe live with that. You really could, but injuries happen. And they always say you can never have enough corners. And so it's going to be a bit of a problem. Dave Gettleman put this team in a very, very tough spot. Very much so. So that's the sad, that's the sad truth of this whole thing. Me personally, I would have loved to have somehow traded Saquon Barkley. Like, that would have been, I know it's not like a 1-for-1, but that would have been the route I would have taken. I would have traded Saquon, and I really would have liked to have kept James Bradberry if possible, while still understanding this is a team that is not a win-now team. So, look, in some ways, and especially if the Giants need a quarterback next year, maybe it isn't such a bad thing to go from, let's say, a 6-win team to a 4-win team by doing things like this. And you want to see improvement. I think you can still, even if the wins aren't there, I think we'll still know if there's improvement. And I want that, definitely for this new regime. I really want the Giants to win games. I like what Shane and Daboll can bring to the table, but at the same time, this roster is very weak. This is a very weak roster, but you kind of have to blow it up to build it back. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. So the players that came from the Dave Gettleman era, they will slowly dwindle. You have to keep some of them, of course. Some of these contracts, there's nothing you can do about it. Like, for example, like Kenny Golladay, who I liked him coming in, and I still think there's a chance for him. There's nothing you can do with. Like, there is literally nothing you can do with that. Like, releasing him would do you no good. Whereas James Bradberry releasing him, you save $10 million. So believe me, there would be other moves that could be made. And not for nothing, again, Leonard Williams and Adoree Jackson, they were paid a lot of money. Like, they're good NFL players, but, are they necessarily worth what they're being paid? I think that's very questionable. So for the Giants, you're looking for good draft picks. You're looking for value, and that's the hope here. And with Dave Gettleman, in the 4 seasons that he was here, there just wasn't a whole lot of that. The good players, and we kind of saw that too with Jerry Reese in 2016, when he brought in Janoris Jenkins, Snacks Harrison, and Janoris Jenkins, Snacks Harrison, and Olivier Vernon. Like, that ends up leading to problems where it worked in year 1, but you had to pay a lot to get them. You got to build through the draft first and foremost, and that's the hope here. So again, this is a move that is not a surprise at all. James Bradberry released, and so this Giant team expect a move or two to be made within, for that secondary, because it's not very deep at the moment. It's very inexperienced, so I'd expect a veteran to be added to the mix. And so now there is a little bit of breathing room for Joe Shane at this point. And the Bradberry was the unfortunate player in this that was the fall guy. So we will see where things go from here. But again, James Bradberry released, and whoever gets this player is going to like what they get, because he really was a pretty good contributor to a Giant team that didn't really have a whole lot going on.